understood the camera was rolling. So now we question how many more tapes Cam has. Was this love or a long-running fraud? And how? When the entire world just saw your life disintegrate in 4K. Brace up because Jim Jones will not come after this. It began with a USB and ended with Jim Jones slumped in a courtroom chair, his hands twitching, his soul partly out, his body. The video wasn't hazy. It wasn't possibly that's her moment. It was clear and time-stamped. The film was shot as if someone expected it would end up in court. Chrissy 9:09 p.m. slipping a hoodie over her head outside the Marin Hotel in Soho, glancing side to side as the city watched. Reggie followers began whispering about the guy who answered the door, not Jim, inside the room. Named Chrissy. A few months ago, he was connected to a hush prison, swore was merely a buddy, but this film wasn't friendship. This was utter treachery in HD. And the moment Cameron Jim sat up higher and handed over the USB to the court clerk, the vibe shifted. The room became colder, and he felt that something deep within him already knew. However, knowing and seeing are two distinct types of. Chrissy stepped into the hotel room and looked back at the Jim. Still believes I'm at my relatives. He's so easy. The courtroom laughed up a storm. He relaxed back in his chair, as if he'd been waiting a decade for karma to pay the check. And Jim sat like his bones had melted. No words, no outbursts, just growing silence, till eventually a sudden gasp and a fall. One hand on his. Chrissy stood motionless in the courtroom, one arm hanging from the chair, as if she were viewing a situation she'd previously seen. Imagined 100 times. The camera did not flinch, blink, or move, and that was just the first 37 seconds clip. Because what happened next was when the fake hushed and ride or die scenario they created for reality TV arrived undone. The film turns to inside the room, where there is wine, 2 glasses, and a playlist, echoing from the speaker slowly. Chrissy chuckles lowly and continues. This is where I breathe. I don't feel anything with you. I feel like I'm suffocating in someone else's existence. That phrase stung like a missile, since just last year, Jim spoke separate shows and named Chrissy his according to insiders. He is now hearing her claim that she felt dead within. Chrissy was aware of the camera on the first day of Oxygen. The apartment belonged to Reggie's pal, who usually take everything for safety. But Chrissy didn't expect Cameron to end up with the tape. How they got it is still unclear. Some claim Cam, while others think Reggie snapped after Chrissy ghosted him last month. Whatever happened, Cameron ended up with the one thing no one dreamed existed. Evidence, and it wasn't just any proof. It was undeniable. Shocking court documents revealed that Cam filed the USB as part of a defamation counter.claim suit against Jim, claiming Jim attempted to slander his reputation during a VH1 production meeting in 2022. But leave a feud, or this wasn't about court, it was about payback, and Cam didn't just serve it cold, he served it right in. Yes, Mama Jones was in court, and when Jim fell to the floor, she swiftly jumped up. Security assumed she was going to swing on Chrissy. You lied to my son, you used him, she screamed before being carried out. Outside, TMZ spotted her pacing the pavement, ranting into her phone. This is why I never trusted that lady. I told Jim. Day 1, she'd destroy him. While inside, the judge had to pause the trial for an hour, while EMTs evaluated Jim's vitals and decided that he had not suffered a cardiac episode, but rather a trauma-induced collapse. Music seconds, Chrissy hotel clip. Cameron revealed the identity, Jones fall, all trending within 20 minutes after the A Vicious meme featured Jim's face on a mattress with the text, "Bro got folded like the sheets." Chrissy left Cameron smiling as Thanos grasped the final infinity, but this wasn't simply a Twitter row session. But the court resumed, and the entire 4-minute clip was presented. The DIA interrupted the trial and summoned the judge away since the film allegedly suggested probability. Obstruction of justice, in addition to proof of adultery, as the court was already examining Chrissy for a sealed charity fraud case. And in the hotel footage, she cites, "Reggie helped me clear the mess up. I told them it was adonation." Translation: there may be more accusations to come, and what began as a reality TV heartache has become a possibility. Cam wasn't done with the federal case, because just as the judge called for break, he jumped up and gazed straight at Jim and said, "I told you, she wasn't faithful. I simply gave you what you needed to heal." Jim did not answer, didn't move, simply glanced forward as if the whole world had become motionless, and Chrissy went up to her attorney. According to a courtroom reporter sitting 3 seats behind her, she mumbled, "Tell the judge I was drunk." That footage is devoid of context. It was a 4K multi-angle with. However, we're only scraping the surface, since when the court returns next week, Cam's legal team has stated that we'll offer 2 further videos, an elite voicemail from Chrissy to Mama Scott, and if only half of what's if, the information reported in that conversation is correct, the whole VH1 franchise will suffer losses, not just Jim Jones. Blow up in flames. Nobody was prepared for what occurred next, because just as everyone was catching their breath from the hotel film, Cameron's lawyer stood forward and shouted 7 words that interrupted the judge mid-sentence. Further video, and you could hear the mutter ripple across the audience, like a sumi of suspicion. Chrissy became pale. Jim did not even look up, and Mama Jones had to be violently stopped from stepping back into the courtroom. Judge leaned forward and requested for clarity from Cam's counsel. This is a message left by Ms. Lampkin on Mama Scott Young's phone 3 weeks before the cheating scandal was captured. This was planned to become a franchise. Conclusion storyline: the clerk played the voicemail. Within 10 seconds, Christy's voice was clearly clear. "Mona, I warned you that if Jim finds out the whole season's wrecked, Cam can't know either. He'll use it. I need you to handle it." Reggie stated it was deleted, so handle the tape. Tell Mona to bury it and call it season ending. This was a blazing gun. Inside a nuclear, the judge interrupted the recording, and Chrissy's lawyer rushed up in a flurry to argue. But it was too late. Kay had heard enough, and he wasn't even smiling anymore. He was caught in since the call didn't just Chrissy cheated, because she expected to be detected and tried to delete it with help from the top, which signaled cover-up that suggested manipulation and maybe intervention in an ongoing crisis investigation. This moment, even the cat appeared shaken. Jim slowly raised his head, eyes vacantly gazing straight at Chrissy. If he didn't know her anymore, let the lady he bought rings for say over on red carpets clash producers to defend. Never existed. Then, the second take began. This one wasn't from the hotel, but from inside a trailer on the set of Love and Hip Hop New York, was recorded months ago and previously released by an unknown crew member. The tape shows Chrissy speaking with Yan Dandy behind the scenes during what was supposed to be a peaceful day, yet there was nothing. Chrissy responded casually, "I am not. I know Jim is faithful, but devotion does not remedy boredom, Reggie. Helps me to feel something. And Mona is aware. If this spills, I'm out yondies." Reaction, bro. I believe that some of this material was obtained unlawfully and that its release may violate an existing contract. Confidentiality agreements. Translation: they were worried after Cam blew apart Their golden coupling exposed producer dishonesty and showed that the entire love story was a ticking time bomb. But the judge was not interested in saving TV packages. So he gazed directly at Chrissy and asked, "Did you try to meddle with the court's investigation through media suppression or misdirection?" Chrissy stuttered. Her lawyer objected. The court pressed on. And that's when her voice cracked. "I didn't mean for it to. I was afraid of losing Jim." Being exposed and witnessing the lie unraveled too late. Since the court had one more surprise, Reggie's text log was exposed. Cam's team supreme constructed a burner phone from which Reggie wrote to a pal. She said, "She play me as well. Abandon him now that I'm the villain." And Cam got the drop. Had dumped the remaining of the recordings. She begged me not to. Yes, there were more at the end of the day. Jim went out of the courtroom, looking like a ghost. No Chrissy beside him, no Mona, no security. Just him and the weight of a love that never existed. A betrayal the entire world just saw. Live outside a reporter asked Cam, "One more question. Do you believe Jim deserves this camera?" He looked into the lens and answered, "No, but the truth doesn't always carry who breaks." And with that, he walked away, because in this game of love, dedication, and cameras, only one guy remains in the courtroom unbeaten. And the hardest part isn't even done the next morning. The film had already touched every screening in America. The snippets were blended, remixed, slowed down, and mixed mournful melody, and converted into ways faster than Chrissy could grasp for them. Jim Jones' face with its frozen. The expression of betrayal has become a symbol, not only of agony, but also of disgrace. And fans were split online. One thing was clear, nobody was buying the misunderstanding viewpoint anymore. This wasn't a rumor, went bad. This was a full organization, disclosed interviews, tweets, clips from past seasons, rewatching the love tale with fresh new eyes, and recognizing the red flags in the leaked HD1 recording, in which Mama Jones told Chrissy face, "You do not love my son. You adore the camera." Now that phrase was on T-shirts, but the court wasn't even close. Because while the emotional pain was loud, the legal calamity was VH1's internal communications were abruptly subpoenaed when Cameron's legal team filed an emergency. Chrissy is slipping off with Reggie to work on post-production, and guess who? Signed off on video cuts for Chrissy and Jim's spin-off. Yes, Reggie. It opened the door to a massive fraud inquiry. If producers manipulated narrative, covered up true upheaval, and distorted film to protect a brand that is not simply shady, that's civil fraud if it involved contracts, ad income or misleading portrayal of cast members. Sponsors began to remove out production, temporarily broke down when Mona Scott Young unfollowed Chrissy mid-hiring. You know it's awful when Mona abandons the script. But here's where things reached an unforeseen level. Jim Jones' lawyer filed a move to sue Chrissy for emotional misery and financial sabotage. Jim her on-screen and off-screen. Everyone was now legally turning against her, and the paperwork was heavy, including lost brand partnerships, cancelled engagements, and, most damningly, unreleased films Jim had committed to filming for a Netflix documentary series, footage that will never appear. Owing to the controversy, estimated loss of $2.3 million, not including what happened after that, because suddenly Chrissy's own ex emerged, a guy named Marcus. Reportedly someone from her past made an exclusive with a gossip website indicating that Chrissy always had a backup plan, and that Jim was never the goal, but rather their notoriety. He even disclosed letters and voicemails. Chrissy reportedly said, "Jim's career is cute, But I'm trying to construct my internet combustion. Bloggers went crazy when Chrissy the architect started trending, and Kay was simply getting warmed up while the court was evaluating applications and sealing evidence. Cameron dropped his. The documentary preview, 132 video, was shared on Instagram with the caption, "You saw the courtroom now." Chrissy's voice may be heard on the dark screen in the teaser muttering, "If this gets out, Jims, I'm going to leave you, don't let Cam find out." Then the camera cuts to Cameron's face. I found out that video exceeded 5 million views in 4 hours. Jim didn't comment. Mama Jones, his mother, went on a live broadcast that night, pacing her homeroom and fighting back tears and rage. "You broke my son. You broke me, Chrissy. You were family, and I called you daughter. Now watch what you've allowed. The devil in." And he donned a pink coat that wasn't only shade that was wearing, and Chrissy collapsed. Quiet, no announcement, no apology. Just one Instagram story with a black background and white writing. Reaction they deserve, too late since. Quiet only works when the world is not roaring. By day 4, the court back in session, the judge was no longer in mediation mode, and he was irritated because more evidence had appeared. Olivia Longer, a former cast member, ex-singer, and longtime quiet spectator, presented in a written declaration. She claimed to have spotted Chrissy and Reggie touching hands and haggling in the hotel lobby in 2022. Chrissy informed her, "I'm simply doing what Mona won't do. Jims are too blind to realize I'm not built for this." That wasn't simply treachery. It was planned deception. Here's where it went wild on VH1. Sought to censor the tape and prevent further broadcasting. They issued stop and desist letters to blogs, remove YouTube breaks, and even filed interim injunctions to prevent the documentary Cameron tease. But the internet doesn't forget, and Cam wasn't afraid. He went to live, smiled while sipping a beer, and said, "Let them try the truth. Has already gone out, this is no longer their story." And Jim has stopped attending court, not because he didn't care, but he couldn't manage it. His team sent a brief statement that Mr. Jones is focusing on his mental health, desire privacy throughout this period. The criminal and the victim traded places. Positions. Since Chrissy switched from fiancé to defendants, and Jim from the rapper, now that the sitcom has Lebo disputes have been cancelled. Brewing and fans demand accountability. Only one thing is definite about this scandal. Wrecked a brand rather than merely a romance. Discovered a franchise and pulled the veil is pulled back on what really happens when love becomes a product, whereas loyalty is one. A fan wrote, "It best love in hip-hop was never genuine, but this sorrow. Fallout this quiet is more real than anything that program has ever broadcast. And you know what they are, right? Because when the smoke has cleared and the modifications stop, only the actual harm remains, the type that doesn't fade." The next episode does not go too commercial, that plays over and over whenever someone searches for the Chrissy hotel footage on YouTube. I wonder if the hotel was worth it. Secret, the Jim's career is smashed by Trary's weight, and response plays on repeat and quiet. For Chrissy, it's already in the film, because no matter how hard they try to twist cover or rework the complete, the world witnessed it, and no one is looking away. So now that the mask is removed, when the cameras are turned off, and the truth is completely exposed, what occurs next? Will Jim Jones walk away from everything, stardom, and Chrissy goes silent thinking that time would relieve the misery of sorry? Cameron, is this simply a betrayal? One-time retribution drop? Or does he have more in the vault? So let's be honest, if this was only one tape, what there is more in those files is confident that it wasn't simply another love. This was a hip-hop moment. A full-fledged takedown of reality, TV empire crumbling under the weight in voice secrets, and a USB drive caused more harm than 1,000 fists ever could. Here's what you need to do. Please